Biz to the Moon Report, live from the metaverse in the Horizon world. And guys, never, ever have I ever seen such abuse of power. And I mean, it's flagrant. Who am I speaking of? Gary Dirty Gensler. Guys, Crypto Mason, you done took the words right out of my mouth.
Gary Gensler is a bitch.
You see what I'm talking about? You got everyone upset. And I'm telling you this right now, what you're doing to the crypto space out there in America. Now, I know if you're a consistent watcher out there, right here at cryptoinfo_DYOR, you know where I'm from. I'm here in Canada. But when you get into the crypto space, you got to pay attention to all the news. It's about the macro. So I had my eye on this, the SEC and the Ripple lawsuit. And look what Brad had to say. Brad Garlandhouse is fed up too. Listen up.
The case against Ripple was not really just a case about Ripple or about XRP. It's really about the industry and how the SEC is kind of playing offense and attacking the whole industry. 2.5 years ago when this started, I'm not sure everyone fully digested that, and now that is widely understood. This is going to be pivotal for the whole industry because if the SEC is able to prevail, I think there's a lot of other cases, and some of them just in the last 4 weeks, I think they brought 5 additional enforcement cases. The macro headline for me is this is not a healthy way to regulate an industry. Your regulation through enforcement, as opposed to where we're seeing in other countries where they're doing the work, right? They're codifying, they're creating a framework that allows an industry to grow while protecting consumers. And I think that's really what the U.S. is lagging. And to some degree why I'm here in Washington is to continue to try to evangelize and educate. You know, here's how these technologies can really benefit consumers, benefit industry.
Is what I'm hearing from you essentially, if the U.S. doesn't get its act together and move more quickly, all of this is going offshore. It's just going elsewhere.
Well, it already is. I mean, the sad reality is that the U.S. really is already behind. You know, this is not behind countries that we haven't necessarily heard of. This is behind Australia and behind the UK, Japan, Singapore, Switzerland. There's a lot of countries that have taken the time and thoughtfulness to create that clear rules of the road. By contrast, when I first got involved in the tech industry in the late 90s, some were saying the internet should be banned. They were saying, like, here's how the internet is being used for illicit purposes. But the U.S. government said, no, we're going to create a framework. And that allowed entrepreneurs, that allowed investors to come in and look at the benefits to the United States on a geopolitical basis to have the Amazons and Googles based in headquartered in the United States. We're at, I think, severe risk of having that not happen in this next evolution of technology around blockchain and crypto. It has already started moving outside the United States. And also, the consumers are suffering because of that, because you don't have the same protections that the U.S. regulatory frameworks can provide.
What would a good framework look like, in your view?
Well, look, I think what you're seeing right now is the Securities and Exchange Commission. You know, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And not everything here is a nail. And I think any framework has to start with clear protections for consumers, but then to thoughtfully understand that these aren't always going to be securities. Some of them are used as currencies. That is, having an efficient process to trade, exchange, move those things would be much harder in a world if they were regulated as securities.
Guys, can't you hear it in Brad's voice? He's fed up. I'd be fed up too. You have this dirty Gary Gensler trying to stifle crypto innovation, and right now, all the countries out there are trying to position themselves right here, right now, because we're in the midst of the 4th Industrial Revolution. And look who you got holding you back. Gary Gensler, because he thinks he's King Tut. I mean, you know he had to respond. Listen up to what he had to say.
Now, Chair Gensler, I'm pretty sure you might say, well, look, a founder in that sort of business might be saying this, but what about some of these players? Like we've spoken to many who've perhaps been part of previous administrations who are now, you know, advisors to some of these companies and worried a little bit about the holistic nature of really trying to regulate and worried that it is more about enforcement rather than rules of the road at the moment.
Caroline, there's nothing incompatible crypto and our securities laws. Our securities laws were brought about to protect the investing public against fraud and schemes and manipulation, And it was through this idea of full, fair, and truthful disclosure, registering with the SEC when you're raising money from the public and the public's anticipating a profit. It's pretty straightforward, actually common sense approach to helping the public in investing. So this broad field, we have one goal at the SEC is for them to come into compliance, whether it's the tokens, that's basically people raising money or offering these tokens. And it's also what I'll call the storefronts, but they can call themselves crypto exchanges or lending or staking as a service or other intermediaries to come into compliance and ensure that they don't mislead the public, but also that they don't commingle the funds, they don't take the public's funds and do things we just don't allow in our financial markets. We don't allow the New York Stock Exchange to also play with the customer's funds and make markets, run a hedge fund, run a dealer, be in the clearing business. We separate out those conflicts.
Guys, the audacity of that dirty Gary Gensler to sit up there and tell a bold-faced lie that he's here to protect the investing public. Bullshit. Because you want to know what? You was meeting with SBF in the back end when that FTX crash happened, so don't expect me to believe what you gotta say. Look what you done did. You tried to scare the people, make them stay away from crypto, and look what you do. You come out here, you want to ban stake, and you want to find Kim Kardashian, you want to find Paul Pierce the truth. You know D-Wade's better, though. Guys, what's really going on? I gotta say, like my godfather once said, what's going on? What's going on? What is going on, man? Because I see what's happening. Gary Gensler, he's trying to get y'all out the crypto space so you can attain financial freedom. And if you're out there and you listening to this man and you make this guy deter you off of the crypto route and you make him get you off your game, don't let that happen. He's just an obstacle. He's a distraction. You gotta avoid it. Guys, that's why I'm here to remind you out there to DYOR, because the proof is there. This is the fourth industrial revolution. There's money to be made. What side of history are you gonna be on? This is Biz to the Moon Report live from the metaverse. I'm finna see you soon.